Many questions today we are going to do? Depends on the number of, what do you call, the amount of time taken by you all to do the question. We'll just go in the normal flow. It's loading, let me on the recording. Okay, let's start. How can I get the PDF? If you all are normally attending my physical class, in the group, I'll share the stuff. I think I call it here. How about now? How about now? How about now? How about now? Am I stuck still or what? What are you doing here? No, okay, okay. For those who institute, what do you call the theory class students who comes to my class physically, you all would have already got the printed version of this tute. And those who are attending my class online, your tutes are being packed. I don't think you'll be getting it within this week itself, but probably by the weekend, as Monday, Tuesday, okay, you might get the tute. Or within the next 7 days, you might get the tute. On the other hand side, what do you call? Yeah. On the other hand side, these fellows, what do you call those who are not attending the classes? You can refer the PDF for now. Regarding the printed tube for all, I tell later. For now, I don't have any plans of giving. If I'm giving, I'll let you know. Talking at the PDF version, there is a WhatsApp community for the paper class, and that is where I normally share these PDFs and recordings and all those stuff. So if you're not there in the WhatsApp community, click on the link I sent in the chat and write. Is it Amar? Okay, let's start. I think we can start now. Yeah. Okay. So these are compulsory question. It's easy question. uh, in your exam, you can spend only 2 minutes for this. I mean, you are supposed to spend maximum 2 minutes, but I'll give you 5 minutes to figure out this answer. Those who have the tutor, you can go to the first page. In page, you have this question. Start doing this all of your regular 5 minutes. Once you're done, raise your hands up. All of you have to make sure you'll have a writing book so you can write the question like 2017 old paper ke liye la. Write your answer. Question number and answer. Wait. Okay, on the time. Should I write the answers in the question booklet or in my writing book? If you have got this PDF, I mean, if you have got the printed one, then you can write it here itself. If you don't have space, I mean, if you did not get it yet, then write in the writing book for today. Okay. Once you're done, raise your hands up in Zoom. Let's see. Let's see. I purchased my classes before stores, but one conference she got her clothes before me. That's because I think she had packed the grade 10 tubes and not the grade 11 tubes. My stuff. And suddenly she got sick, it seems. So she was like, she'll repack again on Thursday. So we'll be getting it probably, let's say, on Monday, I guess. Not sure, but let's see. Will you give the recording for this session? Yes, definitely. I'll be posting it in my channel, WhatsApp community. In this check there. What's the sign next to A? That's a bracket. Like they're saying it's a label. They're saying A square bracket and Q. It's square bracket. While I is less than P. While I is less than, it's scary. Why is it scary, man? It's just an instruction. PDF is not there in the community. That's because you joined now only. But you called, if you had joined before the class started, it will be there. After the class over, I'll again send it. A link for the PDF. Okay. No more. Looks, what is scary in this? Is this just Baba type question? No, it's so hot. Yes, that does. First of all, you all try attempt. You can correct it after. I'm done, but I don't know if it's correct. That's fine. If you're done, raise your hands up in Zoom. You'll have 1.5 minutes remaining others, those who are still doing. And then you all can correct your answers while I'm discussing it. Mhm. What about 2016 question? No, didn't we do it? We have done it, man. How can I cover the notes that I missed in the programming too? Actually, I'm organizing the recordings. Like I'm organizing recording topic wise. I did half. I had completed the whole thing. So once it's done, I'll inform the group. I mean, inform the class. I just think the questions. It is easy actually. I would tell that I'm not, but 2016 was the first paper we did exactly. What was the question done in the last class? We did a partial question. We did this, I guess. No, we did this. But time is up. Let's take the answer. Time up, time up. 2018 and 21. Okay, let's check your answer. Assume that a dice was thrown 10 times and the values obtained are stored in an array named A. Okay, they are saying there is a dice, it seems, and the die is going to be stored, thrown 10 times. And 10 values are obtained and they are stored in an array called A. Fine. The following algorithm with the missing terms P, Q, and R is used to calculate how many times the number 5 is obtained. If you always reading the question, understand the purpose of the program. So here the purpose of the program is to calculate how many times the number 5 is obtained. Now they have mentioned in the question that this array called A is used to store the values obtained. Playing those Ludo, all those stuffs, or else let's say snake and ladders. You would have played with these. You would have rolled the dice and played now. So when you roll those dice and play, you'll be getting a number. Normally, the number you get will be in between what and what. If you have played Ludo or else Snake and Ladder, you might know. When you throw the dice, then what is the number you can get between what and what? Good. Majority of you have played. Exactly. You'll be getting a number between 1 to 6. So that number you get only is recorded here. They have thrown the die 10 times. It's all 10 times what their values was. They have recorded it here. Now look at the values recorded and tell based on the given data, how many times has he got like using by this visually look at the array and tell me how many times has he actually got five based on this given array? Just by looking at the array, what do you think? This is one attempt he got five. The another attempt he got five. So total, how many times he has got five? Exactly. You can see he has got a five twice. Now, for you to be able to tell that he had got five twice, did you just go through only one value in that array, or did you go through all the values in the array? One value or all the values? Exactly. For you to tell that he has got number five twice, you went through all these values in the array and you went one by one and saw is that value five. So if you look at the program also, what should happen in this program is you should be able to go through each and every value of this array. First thing. Second thing is you have to check is that value equal to five. Okay, there are two things that has to happen. One thing, go through every value in this array. Second thing is check if that respective value is five. So if you look at the program, you can see there is a variable called count used, and they have said count equals zero. Fine. Then there's a variable called I used, and they have mentioned I is also equal to zero. Okay. In the beginning, it's difficult to tell what's the meaning of count and I, but let's go through the program. Now you can see there's a while loop here. They have mentioned while I is less than P, we're going to do certain actions. While I is less than P, we're going to do certain actions. And then we are going to, once the while loop is over, we're going to display count. Now, if you notice this properly, you can see when the program ended, you're displaying count. So now you can make a conclusion in your mind. That means count is a variable used. Okay, count is a variable we're going to use to store how many times we got what. What is the purpose of this variable called count? To store the number of times we got how much? Exactly. To store the number of times 5 was obtained. So if you're wondering how do I know that that was a variable used? Because at the end of the day, when the program is finishing, the program should give us how many times we got 5. Okay, that's the purpose of the program. No? So the purpose of the program is to calculate how many times number 5 was obtained. So at the end of the program, if it's going to display count, that means that count is going to be the variable that's going to hold the number of times 5 was obtained. Is that part clear, all of you? Understood how I figured out the purpose of the count variable? Okay. If you have any questions, ask. Huh? Now next. Now you can see. Can you repeat? Yeah, again I tell you. When I went through the program from top to bottom, I noticed there are two variables. I had a variable called count used. You can see in the first line, there's a variable called count used. In the second line, there's a variable called I used. I want to figure out what is the purpose of this count variable, and I want to figure out what is the purpose of the I variable. Then only I'll be able to make my program precisely. Now, when I look at this, what do you call condition here, I can see I is being used. I'll come to this in a while. But if you look at the end of the program, after the while loop, from while to end while, use repetition structure. After the while loop, at the last part itself, at the end of the program itself, you can see there's an instruction called display count. So when you say display count, we're going to display the value of the variable count, right? Which means at the end of normally if there's a program, at the end of the program, it has to solve the problem because a program is basically a solution for the problem. So at the end of the program, we're going to solve a problem, right? So you can see at the end of this program, we're displaying count. And if you look at the question, at the end of the program, what should happen is the question is telling we display how many times the number 5 was obtained. That is what is mentioned in the question here. Now, based on that, you can make a conclusion. Okay, the question is saying at the end, we have to display how many times 5 was obtained. And in this program, here we are displaying the count. So therefore, the word count is error. This variable count is error. Count has to be the variable used to store the number of times 5 was obtained. We can make a conclusion. Is that clear? Sarano, there is labels. Okay, next. How do we recognize if it's a while loop or something? They are given, no, there. They mention a while and while. The word while, the word repeat until defines the repetition. Okay, so this is a while loop. Now, if you come to this while loop, you can see while I is less than P. Now, here P is actually a label used. We have to figure out what this P is. If you notice now in a while loop, okay, the word loop means repetition structure. Okay, in a while repetition structure, after the word called while, here you mention the condition. Here you mention a condition. And based on this conditional, you're going to decide whether you're repeat or not. Based on this conditional, you're going to decide whether you're going to repeat the instructions inside or not. Let's just go through the instructions inside below. The instructions inside you can see, we are checking here if A, okay, A is the name of the array. If the array A in square brackets, they have mentioned the Q. Normally, if you want to check if a respective value is equal to 5, you have to mention the array A, the name of the array. In brackets, you have to mention the index. Like, for example, if you want to check this value, you can see this value is there and index number 0. So if I mention if A0 is equal to 5, now I'm going to check here, is the first value equal to 5. If I mention if A1 is equal to 5, the meaning of this is we're going to check is the value in the first index equal to 5. When I say is A2 equal to 5, the meaning of this is the value in the second index equal to 5. Right? Now, initially, you can see we had a variable called I, and the value of I was 0. And within the loop, you can see, within the repetition structure, you can see at the end itself, before we go and check the condition again, see, before we go and check the condition again, at the end of the repetition structure, we are increasing the value of I, which means initially I was 1. When you say I equals, so I was 0. When you say I equals I plus 1, I will become 1. When you say I equals I plus 1 means it will become 2. So if you notice here, the values of I is changing at the end of the repetition. After it follows the instructions inside, before it goes and again check the condition, it increases the value of I. So now I know, okay, I might be some variable that's going to have the value 0, 1, 2, 3. These are the values of I. So now, if you look at this condition here, this block of code here, we are going to check if A, Q is equal to 5. I want that to be dynamic. What I mean by dynamic is, I want it to be able to take the respective index and based on that update. Meaning, when I'm running this loop for the first time, or when I'm going through the instructions for the first time, it should go and check the value in index 0. When I'm going the next time, it should check the value in index 1. When I'm going the next time, it should check the value in index 2. To make sure it's dynamic, automatically it goes and change, respectively it goes and finds. Without mentioning their queue, I'm going to mention if array A index I. If I mention the index I equals 5, if I mention it like this, now what it will happen is I will be getting replaced with its respective value. So first time when the program is running, the value of I was 0, no. So first time this repetition structure is going to happen. We are going to go to array called I. We are going to go to index 0 and see is the value in index 0 equal to 5. Okay. And then you can see after the end if we have I equals I plus 1. No? So now I will become 2. So I will become 1. So second time the repetition structure is executing, when you say if I is equal to 5, the meaning of that is array A index 1 is a value in index 1 equal to 5. The next time the repetition is happening, we're going to say array A index 2 is that value equal to 5. And that's how the repetition structure is going to go on over and over again. So based on that, you can see this label called Q is representing the letter I. Is that part clear of you? How do you explain, what do you call, figure out that Q is the index of the array? Because you can see here, they have mentioned A square brackets Q. Normally, if you mention like this, what do you call, if you want to check a value in the array, to check the value in the array, first of all, you want to mention the name of the array. In square brackets, you want to mention the index. So because Q was mentioned inside square brackets, I definitely know that Q is going to be the index of the array. Got it? How do we know that we are repeating the instructions? It's mentioned as while loop. No, while loop opposite obviously repeats me. Okay, so Q is going to be representing the label called I. Now, when you say AQ equals 5, I'll repeat again. I'll repeat it again. Wait. Okay. When you say AQ equals 5, the meaning of this AQ, if AQ equals 5, I'm now replacing it to AI, right? I'm telling label Q is representing the letter I. So if I say AI is equal to 5, the meaning of that is if the array A index, what do you call, I is equal to 5. Now, when the program started, look at the top to bottom and tell me, before I came to this instruction, what was the value of I? Correct. Before I came for that instruction, you can see here the value of I was 0. So what's going to happen here is when you say if A, when you look at this condition, okay, when you take this condition, if AI equals 5, how it will correspond, how it will work is it will go and check the array A index number 0. Why I became 0 is why I wrote 0 here is because the value of I is now 0. Okay, you can see the value of I was 0 now. So that's why I said if A0 is equal to 5, then do this skill I mentioned. Now, if you go for the array A and look at index 0, in index 0, do we have the value as 5? Look at this index 0 and tell me, is the value 5? No. So look at this condition, this is what you call program and tell me, in the program, have we mentioned what to do if that condition is false? If that if condition is false, have we mentioned what to do? No. If the if condition is false, specifically what to do is not mentioned. Specifically what has to be done is not mentioned. If you want to mention specifically, if the condition is false, do this. If you want to mention something specifically, what is the keyword you have to use? Exactly. If the condition is false, if there is something specifically that has to be done, then you have to mention the word called else. Okay? You have to mention else. So selection structure would look something like this. If and this condition, then, and here you mention the true statements. What to do if the condition is true? Else. After else only you mention what to do if the condition is false, and then end if. So if you don't have this else part and directly if you have end if, that means we have not mentioned what to do if the condition is false. Okay. So if you look at this program, you can see they have told what to do if the condition is true, but what to do if it's false is not mentioned. So there is nothing that has to be done. We go for the instruction after end if. After end if, you can see the instruction we have is I equals I plus 1. After you follow this instruction, I equals I plus 1. All this time I was 0. Okay, all this time I was 0. After you follow that instruction, I equals I plus 1. What's going to be the new value of I? Correct. The value of I is going to increase automatically and it's going to become 1. Now, in a while loop, when you reach the end while, you again go and check the condition. I'll come to the condition later. For now, just ignore it, okay? Let's say the condition gave you true and you came inside. When you come inside, again you have if AQ equals 5, I said Q is going to represent label I. Now the value of I is how much currently? Look at this table I do and tell me what is the value of I? I is 1. So now we are going to check if A1 is equal to 5. If you go for the array A, index 1 is the value equal to 5. Again, no. So you're going to go for the next instruction, I equals I plus 1. When you go to I equals I plus 1, now I becomes how much? Perfect. Now I will become 2. Now again, you come for end while, you again go and check the condition. Let's say the condition give you true. Now you're going to check if AQ equal, AI is equal to 5. Now the value of I is 2. So you're going to go to array A index 2 and see is the value equal to 5. Look at the value in array index 2 and tell me, is it equal to 5? Yes. The value in index 2, you can see, yes, it is equal to 5. Okay, this is the value we have in index 2. It is equal to 5. So if that condition is true, now what should happen? Or increase the value of count. Because I told you, right? Count is a variable used to store the number of times we got 5. So if you want to increase the value of count, what do you think is the most suitable label, the word that has to come for the letter R? If you want to increase the value of count now. Earlier count, all this time count was 0. Now you want to increase the value of count. So how can you write that? Exactly. You can write that as count equals count plus one. So the label R is representing count. Tell me up to here, I are clear about how I got Q and how I got R. I don't understand what I said last. What I said last is now when I went and check if AQ equals 5, currently Q is how much? What do you call the value of I? I is 2. So when you go for the array A, index number 2, you can see the value of index number 2 is 5. So if the value of I, what do you call index number 2 is equal to 5, what should happen? You'll update the value of count variable, right? Because count is a variable used to store the number of times 5 was obtained. So if I want to increase the value of count IR, what was the label R has to be? Correct. Okay. So now I know what is Q, I know what is no R. Can you mention the index A to 0 in the label Q? No, 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 no. When you're checking a value, you have to check one by one. You can't check all the values together. So you have to check one by one. What do you call is A0 equal to 1? Is A1 equal to 1? Or is A2 equal to 1? You have to check one by one. You can't like that put a range there. You have to specify only a specific index. It has to be in this format. The name of the array and index. We can't mention range. Got it? Okay, perfect. Now comes the last fellow, Q. Now, a while ago, I told you in a while loop, always a condition is there. Okay, always you take this condition. The purpose of the condition is to control the repetition. Control the repetition. Now, for the first time when we were going through this loop, the value of I was 0. And every time when you completed the loop, the value of I increased by 1. You can see when we started, it was 0. Okay, here. And every time we finished the loop, it increased by 1. So it was like 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, when the value of I is 0, should the loop continue? What do you think? This while loop, if the value of I was 0, should it continue? Yes, because then only we can see the value in the 0 index. When the value of I is 1, should it continue? Again, yes, then only we can see the value in the index number 1. This is index number 1. When the value of I is 2, should it continue? Yes, then only we can check what is the value in index number 2. When it's in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay. What about these? Should it continue? Yes, then only we can check all those respective values. Okay. If the value of I becomes 9, now I have to check is value, what do you call 9 equal to, I had to go and check is the value of index 9 equal, because you can see in this instruction I'm checking if the index 9 is equal. Now, when the value of I becomes 10, should I go and check? So I run the instructions inside the loop. So in the loop, I have certain instructions, right? So I run these instructions when the value of I is 10. No. The reason is because let's say we had followed the instruction. If I follow the instruction, the first instruction is what? If AQ equal to 5, right? Which means if I is equal to 5. If the value of I is 10, if you go and check if A10 is equal to 5, in this array called A, do we have an index called number 10? Look at this array and tell me, is there an index called 10? No, the index is going from 0 to 9. Do we have an index called 10 here? No. So therefore, when the value of I is 10, should we continue the loop? Should we follow the instructions inside the loop? No. Only when the value of I is between 0 and 9, we have to follow the loop. Once it exceeds 9, we have to stop the loop. So we write a condition in such that when the value of I is from 0 to 9, it continues. When I becomes 10, it stops. So what I can do is I can mention if I is less than 10. So for the label P, I can mention the word for 10. So if I mention label P as 10, now what's going to happen there is we're going to go and check is I less than 10. So when you go and check is I less than 10, this will give you true, 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 true. But if you go and check is 10 less than 10, this will give you false. And the repetition will. So from that, you can figure out that P is representing number 10, Q is representing I, R is representing count. Is this clear or not? Yes or no? This is how your brain has to work. First time, it might sound like it's overwhelming. But once you practice more and more programming question, when you look at the question itself, you'll be able to figure out the answer. Seriously. This is your first, you all are still in the beginning of hard questions. No? The more and more hard questions you come across, your brain will evolve to automatically figure out all those stuffs. Like, for example, if you look at this program, without even going through the program, you'll definitely R is going to be count kill. Like those kind of things, you'll always get it directly. P is equal 9, right? Again, I tell you, if you put P equal 9, what is the condition there? Is I less than 9? If you go and check is I less than 9, when the value of I becomes 9, if you go and check is 9 less than 9, will this condition give you true or false? It's going to give you false. So if it gives you false, then what's happening? You're not following the instructions inside, no? Which means you're not checking if the value of index 9 is equal to the array index 9 is a value equal to 5. You're not checking that. No? If it's false, you're not checking that. So in that case, you're not checking all the values. You're just checking only the first 9 values. You're missing the last value. Got it? So we mentioned there 9, it's wrong. What's the answer to this question? This is the answer that P is 10, Q is I, R is count. This is the answer. How many of you all got this correct? Put 1 mark each and tell me out of 3 marks, how much marks are what? Like for P, you put 1 mark, Q, you put 1 mark, R, you put 1 mark, and tell out of 3 how much marks you got. We should check the 10th value. Nope. Adi, that's what I said, man. When you put the condition, if I is less than 10, now when the value of I becomes 10, you're going to go and check is 10 less than 10, right? And now the condition gives you false. So which means when the value of I becomes 10, you're not going to follow the instructions inside. But before you went for that round, the previous round was what? The value of I was 9. When you go and check is I less than 9, okay? If you go and mention I less than 9, let's say the value of I is now 9. When you go and check is 9 less than 9, that's going to give you false. So what's going to happen is you will not follow the instructions inside the loop. Then the value of I is 9, right? Which means you are not going to check is this fellow equal to 5K, you will not be checking as per your program. If you mention 9 there, you will not be checking the last fellow. Got it? Will it be 9 if it is less than or equal 9? Yes. If it's less than or equal 9, then you can mention 9. So dry run isn't necessary for this. To check your answer, you can draw dry run. You can just draw the dry run and check, are you actually going through all the numbers and finding is the numbers less than, is the number equal to 5K? You can just draw dry run and see. But not necessary. You mainly need a dry run if they ask you what is the output of the program. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, others write down the correct answer. P is 10, Q is I, R is count. If there's any question, drop in the chat. Huh? Okay, 2019 paper. This looks like an easy question. Page number 3. I'll give you 5 minutes. This is a bloody easy question. You can do this in 1 minute. Huh? Even if you don't know anything in programming, if you just know the basic principles, it's just 5 minutes of work. 1 minute of work. Anyways, good luck. I don't have the paper. If you are physically, you would have got the paper. If you're online, you would be getting the paper delivered in the next 7 days. Why, sir, you gave 1 page for this? For me to scribble. While I'm explaining, I need space to scribble, man. And while you're doing the question, you also need space to scribble. So that space is given to scribble. Done. See, majority of, I'll put all of your hands down. Once you're done, raise your hands up again. Huh? Then the previous question we gave, and we did in the book. Should we copy those to this? We already copied to your writing book, so no need. If you want, it's better if you can, but not compulsory. Anyway, once you're done, raise your hands up. Huh? It's an easy question. The majority of people are done. It's a bloody easy question. Baba question, Mandisa. They're giving easy questions for oils and making your brains not think. Why, what else? First time I was able to complete the question. It's easy question, man. Okay, if someone can't complete this, that means they did not read the question. Huh? Okay, it's easy question. What's M1 in this question? M1 now. Where is M1? It's a variable. M1, M2, M3, there are three variables. Very good numbers for letters though. Example P is 1. E, yes. We match the label with the statement number. P, yes, the only number. What and then? Dun, 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 dun. No, man, none of the dudes were dispatched yet. Only grade 10 dudes were dispatched. We had almost not dispatched. The question is easy. That's when they gave a big paragraph to read. Yeah, so that people will skip this question thinking it's hard, but actually it's easy. The fourth answer. Let's see. Let's see. I didn't still read it. I didn't still go to the question. We'll have a minute remaining. I think there is 100. There should be. I didn't still check. Once still online tutor not yet dispatched. So after that's done, I'll let you know. Once the online tutor is dispatched, still the online ones are not yet dispatched. This question is 10 marks question or compulsory question? It's a compulsory question. It's a 2 marks question, man. You think they'll give 10 marks question so easy? Think for your brains, man. It's a 2 marks question. – 20 seconds remaining. They could at least give 4 marks. Go by and this is 1 mark giving for this itself is too much. Okay, yeah, time is up. Let's go on. So in this question, they're saying following flowchart is used to input marks of 3 subjects, then calculate and display the average of those marks. Yes, Amina. And the pass or fail status. To be considered for a pass, the average should be greater than or equal to 40 it seems. Okay, interesting. I'm going to scribble for this question. Let's see. That's a normal pattern. Without scribbling, I can't do a question. Identify the correct statement for each labels for PQRS in a flowchart from the blah, blah, blah. Write down blah, blah. Okay, fine. In this question, they are saying the main purpose of this flowchart is one thing, to get the marks of 3 subjects. And that you can see is done by this input M1, M2, M3. We're getting the marks of 3 subjects here. So that part is done. Next, we're going to calculate the average of those marks. So if you look at the given question, you can see here, there is a rectangle used here. Normally in a flowchart, a rectangle is used to represent what? Is it used to represent a process, input, or output, or a condition? Yes. In a flowchart, a rectangle is used to represent a process. Okay. So therefore, in this what you call rectangle we have here, we have to mention the process on how to calculate the average marks. Look at the options given and tell me out of 1, 2, 3, and 4, which option is talking about a process to calculate the average marks? Exactly. It is statement number 1. So therefore, P is representing the statement. Easy. Got it? Your answer is correct. Mark it correct. Your answer is wrong. Ask the question for me. Next, you can see we are displaying the average. We are saying, okay, your average marks is this much killer that is getting displayed. And then you have a rhombus. Normally, if you take what you call a flow chart, what is a rhombus used for? Is it used for input, output, process, or condition? Yeah, that's fine. Yes. In a flow chart, a rhombus is used to represent a condition. Okay, like a question. So keep in mind, parallelograms are used for input or output, rectangles are used for process, and rhombus is used for condition. Now, if you look at the options 1, 2, 3, and 4, which one looks like a condition, like a question? Correct. The fourth one. So definitely the label Q is representing the fourth one. Okay. Now the question has told that for someone to be considered as pass, just a statement number. For someone to be considered as pass, the question says the average should be greater than or equal to 40. So for example, if a student's marks is more than 40, equal to 40 or more than 40, they are pass. If you look at this question given here, so the condition given here, in this condition, we're going to check, is the average less than 40? Okay. If the average is less than 40, if this condition is giving you true, that means has that student passed or has that student failed? If the student's average is less than 40, what does it mean? He is passed or he is failed? Exactly. If his average is less than 40, that means his yes direction should talk about him failing. So therefore, the label S has to represent him failing, which means display fail. That's going to be label number 2. And if the condition is false, that means he got more than 40, if he or equal to 40. So in that case, the label R is going to represent he has got pass. So this is a value of P, Q, R, and S. Is that clear, all of you? Yes or no? Okay, put 1 mark each and tell me out of 4 marks, sorry, half marks each. Put 1 mark each. That's going in normal pattern. Put 1 mark each and tell me out of 1 mark, out of 4 marks, how much you got. If you have any questions, drop your question in the chat. If you have any other clarifications, drop them in the chat as well. For the first time, 4 out of 4. But this is an easy question, man. Isn't R equals to 2? No, because if you come for the label R, the label R is talking about the condition being false. If this condition is giving you false, which means no, if someone comes and asks, is the average less than 40? Okay. If someone comes and asks, is the average less than 40? Does that mean you got more than 40? Or does that mean you got less than 40? If your answer is going to be no, a person came and told you, is the average less than 40? You're saying no. So if you say no, that means have you got more than 40 or less than 40? No, Napa. A person came and asked you, what do you call, is your average less than 40? You told me no. That means you have got, exactly. That means you have got more, right? So if you have got more than 40, that means what? Are you pass or fail? More means you're pass. So that means R has to talk about pass. And the label number 3 is talking about displaying pass. So that's why R is 3. Makes sense. Always go through the question properly. I'm pretty sure you would have thought that that condition is checking is average more than 4. No. If you look at the question properly, that condition is checking is average less than 4. It's opposite. The question we did before is how many marks? All are 2 marks question. No? These all 2 marks question. The first few questions are all 2 marks questions. They're all compulsory questions. These are 2 marks, 2 marks, 2 marks, 2 marks. Yes, Samina, I'll be sending it in the community. Okay, before I go for the next question, anyone have any doubts here? If there is any doubts, drop in chat. Huh? Okay, the last 2 marks question for the day, or for the day for the tute. I'll give you 5 minutes to this. After that, we'll be moving on to 10 marks questions. Why? No, no, no. No, 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 Shanaya, no. I'm gonna put all of your hands down. Once done, raise your hands up. Huh? Yes, Karja. Why, Himad? Why? What are the meaning of all flowchart shapes? Um, ellipse represent the beginning or as ending of the program. Parallelogram is used for input output. Rectangle is used as a process. Rhombus is used in conditions or decisions or questions. And arrows are used to connect the shapes. I'm always like that, Alhamdulillah. That's the normal way. Those are done. Raise your hands up. Again, it's easy question. You'll have 10 seconds more. Okay. This is an easy question, man. What do you mean by need more time? Let's see. Consider the following pseudocode segment with blank spaces labeled A to C. Okay. Which calculates and displays the sum of odd numbers from 0 to 10. Okay. Write down the suitable expressions for blah, blah, blah. Okay, easy question. Again, in this program, you can see there's a variable called sum used, there's a variable called num used. Out of sum and num, okay, when you go to the program, again, you can see there's a while loop. After the while loop, there's display sum. At the end of the day, when the program is finishing, you're displaying the value of sum. So technically, that means sum is a variable used to store what? It is a variable used to store the sum of odd numbers between 0 and 10. Is that clear, all of you? Just like how I found for the previous question. I just first of all found out the purpose of the variable. Obviously, yes, sir. Definitely. Okay, so yeah, sum of odd numbers between 0 and 10, what do you call, is going to be stored in the sum variable, right? Now we know the meaning of sum variable. Let's see what the purpose of num variable, but let's go to the program. If you go to the program, you can see there's a while loop here, and there's a condition here. Now you know, again, I told this in the previous question, in a while loop, the purpose of the condition is to control the repetition. That is to make sure in a certain scenario, we follow the instruction and then at a specific time to stop the following, right? So the main purpose of the condition is to control the repetition. Now, if you notice here, what is the repetition? If you notice, one thing you can see, the value of sum is being changed, the value of num is being changed. Now, if you take the numbers from between 0 and 10, these are the numbers we have between 0 and 10. Okay, these are the numbers we have in between 0 and 10. Now we are supposed to find the sum of them. Sum of them is addition of them. That is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Now if you are going to do that manually, how will your brain process this? You might add 1 and 2 together. You might be like 2 plus 1 is 3. Then add 3 and 3 plus 3 is 6. Then add 4 and 6 plus 4 is 10. Like we will be adding 1 by 1, right? Just like, sorry, sum of odd numbers. Sum of odd numbers means you'll be adding only what you call 1 and 3 and 5 and 7 and 9. You'll be adding only these numbers. Sorry. Okay, you'll be adding only these numbers. Now, first of all, the main purpose of this condition is to make sure we go through these numbers. We go through a set of numbers, and within this loop, you can see we are going to add that number and we're going to change the value of num. You already figured out that sum is a variable used to store this answer, that 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7. That is what you call the answer of that is only going to be stored in some variable. Now, I'm going to guess, okay, we have to go through each numbers, right? So let's say num is going to be the variable used to go through every numbers. If the first odd number is number 1, you can see we have mentioned num equals 1. After 1, if I want to go to 3, what should be the change for num? Num has to increase by how much? From 1, if I want the value of num to become 3, the value of num has to increase by how much? Correct. It has to increase by 2. From 3, if I want to make it 5, it has to increase by how much? Again, by plus 2. From 5, if I want to make it 7, it has to increase by how much? Again, plus 2. So you can see that plus 2 is being consistent. Everywhere it's plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So I can tell this C is representing num equals num plus 2. C is representing num plus 2. Is that part clear, all of you? To make sure, so num is going to be the variable I'm going to use to go through every odd numbers between 0 and 10. And now I want to add that value to the sum variable. So B is going to represent sum equals sum plus num. Which means initially you can see sum was 0, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to add these num values. So initially sum was 0. First of all, I'm going to add this 1 to it. So 0 plus 1. Then I'm going to add the 3 to it, plus 3. Then I'm going to add the 5 to it, plus 5. So likewise, what's going to happen is for the existing value of sum, I'm going to add the values of num. Add num, add num, add num, one by one, I'm going to add. Can't it be sum equals sum plus 1? Why do you want to increase sum by 1? So if you mention sum equals sum plus 1, if initially sum was 0, then sum is going to be 1, then plus 2, then 3, then 4. What is the purpose? The question is saying sum of odd numbers from 0 and 10. So if you do that, you're adding not only 1, you're adding 2 also. 2 is an odd number. Okay. For C, I wrote sum plus num. Is it wrong? If you say num equals sum plus num, what is the purpose? You can see at the end of the day, the program is displaying the value of sum. So sum has to hold the value of the addition of these odd numbers. If you mention that sum plus num for the second one, that means you are displaying num, not sum. I don't get B equals sum plus num. Okay. Now, I'm saying num is going to be the variable used to go through each values from each odd numbers from 1 to 9, 1 to 10. Okay. So in 1 to between 1 to 10, you can see, first of all, we have mentioned num equals 1. So that means the first odd number we have is 1. And then when I say num equals num plus 1, now I'm going to go for the second odd number. The second odd number is what? Sorry, num plus 2. When I say num equals num plus 2, 1 plus 2, and that's going to go for 3. Now when I say num equals num plus 2, now I'm going to go to 5. So basically, the value of num, initially it's going to be 1. Then the value of num is going to be 3. Then the value of num is going to be 5. Then the value of num is going to be 7. Then the value of num is going to be 9. That's how the values of num is going to change. Tell me, first of all, are you clear about the different values num is going to get in every repetition? Every time that code is repeating, are you clear the values of num is going to get? Sarah got it? If you can't understand C, you can't understand B. So first of all, make sure you understand B. Answer my question, man. Can you understand? C is my question. Not till you understand B. I come to B. Wait. Okay. So when you say num equals num plus 2, you can see initially we have mentioned num equals 1. In the program starter, the value of num was 1, which is mentioned here. Okay. Initial numbers. When I mention here num equals num plus 2, what's going to happen is it's going to increase by 2. So first of all, num was 1. Then 1 plus 2 is going to be 3. Then 2 plus 2 is going to be, sorry, 1. 1 plus 2 is going to be 3. 3 plus 2 is going to be 5. 5 plus 2 is going to be 7. 7 plus 2 is going to be 9. So initially the value of num was 1, which was mentioned here in the top itself. And then after every repetition, the while loop you can see after every repetition, at the end of the repetition, close to the end value you can see, I have mentioned num equals num plus 2. I say num plus 2, from 1 it's going to go to 3. From 3 after it will go to 5. After 5, the next one will go to 7. After 7, it will go to 9. Is that part clear? The values of nums, are you clear? The value num, initially num will have 1, then it will have 3, then it will have 5, it will have 7, it will have 9, it will keep on going like this. Is that part clear? Okay. Now, when you say you want to find a sum of odd numbers between 0 and 10, you know now these are the odd numbers between 0 and 10. You want to add these numbers. Now, practically, if you're going to add these numbers and if you're going to give me the answer, do the addition and tell me what is the answer. What is the answer of 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9? Yes, the answer is 25. Now, for you to get this 25, in the first, by just looking at the numbers, did you find 25? Sorry, there was a network issue, I guess. Right. Okay. Coming back to the question, what do you call when you're finding the numbers? When you're what do you call adding the numbers? How do you add the numbers? Do you add the numbers pair by pair? Pair by pair means 1 plus 3 is 4, 4 plus 5 is 9, 9 plus 7 is 16. Killer. Do you add these numbers pair by pair, or do you add the whole numbers all at once? All at once means you just look 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9, and it will be okay. That is 25. At once, can you say the answer is 25? Or how do you add it? Pair by pair. Exactly. You will be adding it pair by pair. Initially itself, okay, before you add all these numbers, what will be the value in your head? Exactly. Before adding all the numbers is 0. After you add 1, now it will become how much? It's going to be 1. Now the next odd number we have is 3. After you add 3, now how much it will become? Correct. It's going to be 4. Now the next odd number we have is 5. After you add 5, what's going to be the value? Perfect. 9. After the next odd number we have is 7. After you add 7, what's going to be the value? Perfect. It's going to be 16. The next odd number we have is 9. After you add 9, how much it will be? It's going to be 25. Now, if you notice here, how the process of adding numbers versus initially the value of sum was 0. And then after every repetition, you're adding the value of num, right? Okay, num was 0 and sum was 1. So you added num to that sum value. So 0 plus 1 became 1. Next, you're going to add the next num value. Now you can see the next num value is 3. You added the 3 to this one. So you add this 3 and 1. So 3 plus 1 is 4. And that's how you got this 4 here. Then you add the next num value. 5 plus 4 is 9. So if you notice here, what's happening is the value of sum is being equal to the previous value of sum plus the previous value of num. You're taking the num value, sum value, adding it, storing it. Adding. That's what's so that's how it's going to be. What do you call initially 0 plus 1? And that's going to be 1. Then it's going to be 1 plus 2. That's going to be 3. And it's going to be 3 plus 4. So 3 plus 0 plus 1. And then 1 plus 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. And then 7 is 16. And 16 plus 9 is 25. That's how this number 25 came. You took the value of sum and the value of num. Sum and num, sum and num, sum and num. You are adding the values of sum and num together. That's how this 25 is formed. So that is how I derive this equation that label P has to be sum is equal to sum plus num. You're adding the value of sum and num together. Got it? Because num is a variable used to store that 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Initially, you can see numbers 1. And at the end of every repetition, the value of num increased by 2 and it became 3, 5, 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm saying the value of sum has to be adding that num to it. So sum equals sum plus num, something like that. Make sense? Now comes the label A. Label A is the question, the condition. Depending on that condition, only the repetition is going to happen. Now you repeat these instructions at during a certain range of time period, you repeat this instruction. So what I'm going to mention is I'm going to mention while num is less than 10. So for example, when the value of num is 1, it will repeat, 3, it will repeat, 5, it will repeat, 7, it will repeat, 9, it will repeat. After 9, it will become 11, bro. In 11, it will stop. Because if you go and check, is 11 less than 10? It's false. So only when the value of num is less than 10, it's going to repeat the instruction. So you can tell A is basically, is num less than 10. So the purpose of the I don't know what the hell was happening in the network. Here it is. Drop in a chat out of 3 marks how much you got. Others drop me a question in the chat. Can't we write as is num less than or equal to 10? Why do you want to mention equal to 10? What is the purpose? Because anyways, when num is 10, it doesn't function, right? Because your purpose is what? When the value of num is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. As long as it's more than 9, it has to stop. This is the answer of the question. A is num is less than 10. B is sum equals sum plus num. C is num plus 2. Will you upload the recording in the comment? Yes, yes. Can I know the answer for the A? A is num less than 10. Finish 20 marks. If you mention leather, is it wrong? Mention like what? Perfect. What is it? Can't we put less than 9? No. If you put less than, again, man, if you put num is less than 9, tell me, okay, if you put num is less than 9, if you put this as the condition, okay, when the value of num is 9, will this condition give it true or false? When the value of num is 9, will the condition give true or false? No, Hamra, because the value of num will become 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 after 9 because we're saying plus 2 here. Because we're saying plus 2, after 9, the next value of num is going to be 11. It's not going to become 10 even. It's going to give you false. So if it gives you false, then are you going to follow this instruction sum equals sum plus num? Num? Are you going to follow this instruction of where earlier sum was 16, 16 plus 9? Will this instruction be followed? The value of sum being 16 plus 9? Are you adding the number 9? No. So in that case, your program, if you put while num is less than 9, your program will give false and this part will not get added. So technically, your program will be output giving 16, not 25. Got it? Less than or equal 9 is correct, but less than 9 is not. Less than or equal to 9 you can, but less than 9 is not. Num is less than or equal to 10, it's correct, but those are all unwanted answers, man. You can mention num is less than 10 is correct. Num is less than or equal to 10 is correct. Num is less than or equal to 9 is correct. Num is less than 11 is correct. Less than or equal to 11 is wrong. These are all possible, but the most suitable I would tell is num is less than 10. Yes, Mark, yes. Today we finished it. Even this week. Then what about if num mod 2 equals 1? If num mod 2, these are if conditions, these while loop. In while loops condition, there is no there is no need for that if condition because when you take odd number, apart from finding an odd number, you are written there condition to find if a number is odd number. Here we're not finding if the number is odd or even. We are directly going to say num equals num plus 2. Plus 2 means obviously it's going to be odd number, right? Like for example, you can see we're starting the value of num with 1 here. The first line itself you can see here. The value of num is 1. So when you say plus 2, num is going to be 3. Plus 2, num is going to be 5. So definitely when you say plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, we are dealing with only odd numbers. There is no need for that if condition here. Less than or equal to what, Sunny? What to no. There is no if condition here. If it was to find even numbers, will we include 10? Some of it. If it was what you call the word they have mentioned between, no. So because they have used the word between, no. If they use the word from, then yes. From 0 to 10, yes. Between 0 to 10, no. Yes, Darul. What is this, Harima? If you mention num plus 1 for C, is it wrong? Prove me it's correct, then I'll tell you is it wrong. When you say plus 1, obviously it's wrong, because if you say plus 1, the values of num is going to be what? After 1, num plus 1 is going to be 2. Plus 1 is 3. Plus 1 is 4. So if you say sum equals sum plus num, if you're going to add this 0, so add this 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, you're adding even numbers as well. No, you're not adding only odd numbers. The question says to add only odd numbers. Yeah? Sum of odd numbers. So if you say plus 1, you'll be adding this 2 and 4 as well. Is this related to arrays? No, this is related to while loop. Anyone having any other questions here? How do you identify when the number is odd or number is odd? It's predefined. If the starting number is plus 1, okay, if they say number is equal to 1, and if I'm going to define here the value of number is going to increase by 2, then can the number become even? Initially value of number is 1. I'm going to say it's going to increase by 2. So can it become even in that case if it's going to increase by 2? No. So there is no purpose to check if that number is odd or even, because by default we are going to increase by 2. We know the starting value and we know the increasing value. It's all predefined. Um, so the questions they ask you the output, draw the diagram. They're not asking the output. If they're not asking output, then don't draw the diagram. Because the purpose of the diagram is to mainly know how the program is working. Can you put mod 2 equals 1? No. That is only if there's if condition here. The while loop, no. While loop's condition is to control the repetition. So if you put mod 2 equals 1, if that condition gives you false, the program will stop. And the whole programming lesson is over in the class. Himadal. Anyways, for today, I'm going to stop from there. We'll be starting the part 2 questions from next week. But if you have any questions, I can stay and ask. Colors I can leave. Less than 10, what are your numbers? What do you mean? Question number. Question number. I'm writing get your question. Less than 10 means we have both. Okay, so you are saying in this question for the label A. Okay, let me show you how this program works. When the program started, look at it properly and tell me. When the program started, what was the value of sum? 0. The next instruction, they have defined the value of num, right? What was the value of num? No. What is the value mentioned here for num? Num is 1. Then I have another instruction to check if num is less than 10. I have another instruction called output. Let me go to the program. Here I have the while loop and the condition. And I'm going to check here condition, right? So let's say I have the condition there is num less than 10. So if I have the condition while num is less than 10, look at the current value of num and tell me, is it less than 10? Yes or no? Yes. While loop, if that condition along with the while loop is true, Do you follow the instructions inside the loop? In a while loop, if that condition is true, are you going to follow the instructions inside? Yes, because I told you, remember about the World Trade Center. While true, continue. Only if it's false, you stop. So the first instruction I had there is sum equals sum plus num. I told you to consider the label B as sum plus num. No. When you say sum plus num, sum is 0, num is 1. So what is the value of sum plus num? When you say sum equals sum plus num, after I follow this instruction now, what will be the new value of sum? Currently, you can see sum is 0. Currently, you can see num is 1. So when you say sum plus num, how much it is? Exactly. That's going to be equal to 1. So the value of sum now becomes 1. Is this part clear? Now next. All right. Now next instruction num equals num plus 2. So currently you can see num is 1. When you say num plus 2, what's going to be the next value of num? Exactly, it's going to be 3. Now when you reach the end while, you again go and check the condition. So now when you go and check the condition, is num less than 10? Currently num is 3. When you go and check is 3 less than 10? True or false? True. So because it's true, you're going to again follow the instruction inside. First instruction sum equals sum plus num. So look at the value of sum, look at the value of num and tell me what is the value of sum plus num. Exactly, that's going to be 4. The next instruction num equals num plus 2. So what will be the next value of num? Num plus 2. 5. When you reach the end while, you again go and check the condition. Is num less than 10? Okay. Currently, you can see num is 5. When you go and check is 5 less than 10? True. Then sum equals sum plus num plus 4 is 9. Num equals num plus 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. When you reach the end while, you again go and check the condition is num less than 10? True. Then sum equals sum plus num. 9 plus 7 is 16. Num equals num plus 2. 7 plus 2 is 9. Then when you reach the end while, you again go and check the condition is num less than 10? True. Now you say the sum equals sum plus num. 16 plus 9 is 25. Num equals num plus 2. 9 plus 2 is 11. Now if you go and check, is num less than 10? True or false? Look at the current value of num and tell me, is it less than 10? No, false. So if it's false, will the while loop continue? With the instructions inside the while loop, are you going to follow those instructions? No. So now you go for the instruction after end while. Here after end while we have display sum. So what is the value of sum? You can see sum is 25. So we are going to display 25. Got it? Understood how it works? Okay. Any other questions, Simon? Anyone having any questions? Sir? Okay. As there's no other questions, I'm going to end the meeting. But again, if there's anything, you can WhatsApp me and get them clarified. Okay. Have a nice day.